Good morning class 6 students. I am your science teacher and in this video we'll study about the lesson number 2 components of food. This is the part 1 video. So let's begin with the chapter number 2 components of food. In this the objectives of the video are food components, carbohydrates, types of carbohydrates. Then we'll see an activity to show the presence of simple sugar or glucose and an activity to show the presence of complex sugar or starch. Components of food. The main components of food are nutrients, roughage, and water. We have already seen that human beings make food from plants and animals. We obtain our food from plants as well as animals, and we need food for a lot of energy and for growth and repair. For this we need lot of nutrients, roughage and water. Water is also a very essential component for the growth and repair of the body cells. So let's see what are the nutrients. Nutrients are the substances that an organism needs for the growth, repair and maintenance of its body. Okay, so the main types of nutrients in the food are carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals. Any kind of food that we eat contain these kind of nutrients. So we'll see each nutrient in detail in this chapter. So let's study the chapter ahead. Let's move on with the video. So the first nutrient is carbohydrates. So the carbohydrates are the main source of energy for our body. We obtain our energy mainly from the carbohydrates only, and therefore these food are also called as the energy giving food. Okay, so carbohydrates can be divided broadly in two ways, that is simple carbohydrates or just sugars, and complex carbohydrates or starch. Simple carbohydrates or sugar further is divided in two ways as glucose and fructose, whereas the complex carbohydrates or starch is the reserve food of the plants. We have already studied about the process of photosynthesis in our previous classes. Plants take sunlight, carbon dioxide, and with the presence of water, it converts all these things into the food. Okay, the food for the plants. This process is photosynthesis, but in return plants give us a lot of oxygen, and the food that they prepare is a simple carbohydrate, is a simple sugar called the glucose. So the plants make their food in the form of glucose, correct, and they use the glucose or the simple sugars for their growth. And you have also studied that plants store the food, the extra food, in the form of the starch, correct. Now we'll see this fructose also. This fructose is the sugar that is found mostly in the fruits. That's why this fruct is there. This word is connected to the fruits. Okay, so have you understood this chart? This is carbohydrates can be divided into simple sugars, simple carbohydrates, and the complex carbohydrates, that is starch. The sugars can be further divided in the form of glucose and fructose. And the complex carbohydrates or starch is actually the reserve food of the plants. Let's study these two types in detail now. Types of carbohydrates. Simple sugar, glucose and fructose. So, simple sugar is of two types, that is glucose and fructose. They have the sweet taste and they provide the instant energy. The major sources of simple sugar are fruits, that is papaya, banana, mango, grapes, etc. These can be eaten directly. So we can wash them and eat them directly. There is no need of cooking to these fruits. So these are the glucose. These are the simple sugar present in the fruits. Okay. So let's see now the complex sugar. The complex sugar or starch is the reserved food of the plants. I told you the plants reserve their food in the form of starch. Okay, so this starch is a tasteless and odorless powder kind of thing. Okay, it is in the form of powder and it is tasteless and it is odorless. It provides energy comparatively slow as compared to the simple sugar. Here we have seen that the simple sugars provide the instant energy. If you're feeling low energy, you can directly eat the fruits and the energy will be back. But the complex sugar uh, energy is comparatively low as compared to the simple sugar. The major sources of the complex sugar are wheat, rice, maize, potato, etc. So you can see that wheat, rice, maize, potato needs to be cooked before eating. So we need to cook these grains before we can eat them. This is because there is a wall, the outer surface, which is called as the cellulose, and when we cook these kind of foods like wheat, rice, maize, this cellulose gets softened. Okay, and then we can eat the complex sugar. I hope you have understood. Let's move ahead. Now see, there is an activity to show the presence of the sugar in the food. So we are talking about the simple sugar and not the starch. We are talking about the glucose and fructose presence in the fruits. Okay, let's see an activity to test the presence of sugar or glucose. So for that, take the crushed pieces of potato and apple in the separate test tubes. Add some water to each of the test tube and shake them. Add 2-3 drops of BENEDICT solution to each test tube. So you have to take the BENEDICT solution and mix it with the crushed pieces of apples or the crushed pieces of potatoes. Now you have to heat them gently for about 2 minutes. So what will you observe? You will observe a orange-red precipitate in the test tube containing the crushed apples. So the pieces of apple in the test tube, when it is mixed with the BENEDICT solution and you heat it, what will happen? This BENEDICT solution, which was blue in color, will change its color to orange and red. You can see over here the change of color in the picture. So this change in color shows that the glucose is present in the apple, whereas the test tube that contains potato, when mixed with the BENEDICT solution, will give no change in color. So there will be no change in the other test tube and no precipitate would be formed. So you can say that the formation of red precipitate indicates that sugar is present in apple and that potato does not contain glucose or sugar. Let's see another activity. Before that, let's see the BENEDICT solution. This BENEDICT reagent, often called as the BENEDICT solution, is a chemical reagent and a complex mixture of sodium carbonate and copper sulfate. So it is a mixture of sodium carbonate and copper sulfate, and it is often used in place of the place to detect the presence of the reducing sugars. So this BENEDICT solution, which is generally blue in color, when mixed with the simple sugars, gives the different colors when mixed with the sugars. So it is generally used in the test for doing the test for the sugars, as we have seen in the earlier slide of this video. The color of that activity in that activity was also changing to the orange or red. Okay, so this is the BENEDICT solution. This is another activity to test the presence of starch in the given food sample. So for this activity, take a piece of raw potato, put few drops of iodine solution on its cutted surface with the help of the dropper. So we observe the blue-black color when the iodine drops fall on the surface of this potato. So we can conclude that the potato contains the starch. This iodine solution, when reacts with the starch, turns the color into blue and black. Often you would have seen when you cut the potato, there is a white kind of liquid coming out from the potato. That liquid is nothing else but the starch. And this activity, iodine solution, when reacts with the starch present in the potato, changes the color of the surface of this potato into blue and black, and this proves that the potatoes contains starch. Starch is a reserved food of the plants. Okay, I hope that you have enjoyed the video. Please note these questions and answer them in the notebook. Thank you for now, and we'll continue the chapter in next video.